While I was being wheeled into life-saving brain surgery, my mom asked the doctor if I could still play football next season. My dad played college football and never made it to the pros, and he spent my entire childhood making sure I knew I was his second chance at glory. Every dinner conversation was about my stats, every weekend was spent at training camps, and every report card was ignored unless my game performance was slipping. During my sophomore year, I took a bad hit in a game, and my head was pounding so hard I could barely see straight, and I went to my parents expecting them to take me to a doctor. Instead, my dad looked me in the eyes and said, "Walk it off and tell the coach you're fine. Scouts don't want players who sit out." I didn't know what to do, so I lied. During my junior year, I got my second concussion at practice, and this time the headaches lasted for weeks, and I sat my parents down and said, "Something is really wrong with me. I'm scared." My dad made a phone call and got a family friend who was a chiropractor to write a fake clearance note so I wouldn't miss any games. "You're overthinking it," my mom said. "Every football player gets their bell rung sometimes." A few months later, I got my third concussion, and they didn't even take me to get checked. "You're being soft," my dad said. "You need to toughen up if you want to play at the next level." After that third one, I started noticing things that terrified me. I forgot my girlfriend's name in the middle of a conversation and had to pretend I was joking. I got lost driving home from the same practice facility I'd been going to for 3 years and sat in a parking lot crying because I couldn't remember which way to turn. I started getting bloody noses that I would hide in the bathroom because I didn't want my parents to have another reason to call me dramatic. My little sister caught me crying in my room one night, and she grabbed my arm and said, "You have to tell someone, please, this isn't normal." I wanted to, but I was too scared of what my dad would say. Then my senior year came, and it was finally the morning of the state championship game, and 3 college scouts were coming to watch me play. I woke up with the worst headache of my life, and my vision was so blurry I could barely read my phone. I found my dad in the kitchen and said, "I can't play today." My voice was shaking. "This family has sacrificed everything for this moment," he said. "You are not throwing it all away because of a headache." My mom crossed her arms and said, "You've always been dramatic. You'll feel fine once the adrenaline kicks in." I stood there waiting for one of them to look at me and see that something was really wrong, but they just stared until I walked away to get dressed. I suited up because I was too tired to fight them anymore. On the field, I was playing terribly, and I could barely see the receivers, and every time I turned my head too fast, the whole stadium would spin. I threw 2 interceptions in the first quarter, and I could feel my dad's disappointment from the stands. At halftime, I was throwing up in the locker room, and my coach came over and asked if I was okay. Before I could even open my mouth to answer, my dad stepped between us and said, "Just nerves. Game pressure. He'll be fine for the second half." I wanted to scream the truth, but the words wouldn't come out. The second half started, and I went back out there because my dad was in the stands with the scouts he had been emailing for months. I took a completely normal hit, nothing special, the kind of hit I had taken 1,000 times before, and I went down and didn't get up. I don't remember what happened next, but they told me I was seizing on the field for almost 2 minutes before the paramedics got to me, and the whole stadium went silent. They flew me to the hospital in a helicopter, and the brain scans showed serious damage, bleeding, and swelling that the doctors said should have been caught years ago. I was lying in the hospital bed with tubes in my arm when my parents came into the room, and my mom was already crying and saying, "This isn't our fault." The doctor came in behind them looking furious and said, "How was this missed? How was he cleared to play with a brain that looks like this?" My coach had followed the ambulance to the hospital, and he walked in holding my medical file with all the clearance notes my parents had forged over the past 2 years. He handed them to the doctor without saying a word. My dad's face went white. My mom grabbed the doctor's arm and said, "We never meant for this to happen." The doctor pulled his arm away and stared at both of them. "The only scouts who are going to be interested in your son now are the lawyers looking for plaintiffs in brain injury lawsuits," the doctor said. "Your son is going to be a real winner on that front."